Hello, from VOLTRON, another episode, another one. Tonight is Brian's idea. He got in touch with me and said, why don't we do an election episode? Because the election's coming up. I said, all right. Let's pick apart this election. Let's talk about it in a way. And Brian's already laughing because, as I said the other day, we made that post out on the social media. This will be the most ignorant analysis of an election you've ever heard. This will be nothing like any other picking apart of the topics that you will hear on any other news outlet. These local news stations that, the other day they're talking about, is it Sky 7? Do I have that right? A tree falls on your house. You're dealing with that misery, and Sky 7's going to fly over the house, start filming your house without your permission, and splatter it all over the airwaves. And there's nothing you can do about it. And then a week later, they'll do a Walk for Hunger benefit or Walk for the Homeless or whatever it is and tell you what great people they are and all the good things they're doing for the community, and it erases everything. So let's talk about the election. I'm going to make a lot of observations. I love coming on here and talking about topics or comments, behavior, dialogue that I've noticed. I've talked a lot. I listen to a lot I still listen to the radio a lot, watch a lot of network television. And I think the conservative talk radio and even the left-wing ones were kind of the beginning of what you see now with this whole podcast scene. So I hear people, I take mental notes, and I guess this is just kind of a throwing my opinion in with these national topics that are discussed every day. And I think there's a lot of blind spots that these hosts have. And that's not to say I have all the answers, but I definitely have probably a different way of looking at it. So let's get right into this. The conservative movement, the talk shows, the commentators, just like with the left wing, with the Democrats. See, the Democrats, it's a lot about, people say how they've got all these celebrities on their side and they've got the weight of this, just the entertainment industry, and it's very hard to combat. Well, the Republicans have that too. But what's funny about them is, Hollywood is what it is. It's, when we talk about the poison, the vulgarities, these messages we push on kids, it's that if you're going to befriend these people, well, you're going to be kind of tied in with it as well. And I think to some extent, the Republicans kind of have to do that. They don't really have a choice if they're going to come with, attack with the same force. But it's funny that nobody really, you don't hear brought up what I'm about to say. I'm listening to a big, kind of like a big national talk show the other day. I'm not going to say the name because I'm not trying to, I'm not looking to like kind of pick a fight with anybody. And B, they're not it doesn't matter. They're not the only ones doing this. Where they're talking about the destruction of the family. They're concerned about the destruction of the family. And a topic tied in really closely to that is they blame it on men are not acting like men or behaving the way they should, or boys are being raised differently than they were decades ago. And there's a go-to person who has been kind of rising up in the ranks as kind of the person that is also concerned with this, a Hollywood person or someone in the entertainment industry that they're going to go to kind of comment and help in this battle, help bring this awareness. So I'm listening to this show, and it's not the first time this person has been brought onto these shows to be interviewed. They go, all right, here to talk about X, Y, and Z. We're going to go to Adam Carolla. Right. They're going to go to Adam Carolla. Here's my issue with this, and this is going to take a few minutes. Brian clapped, but he also gave the thumbs down, which I like, okay? I'm going to break it down. I'm going to pick it apart for you. And Brian, by the way, this was a good idea to do an election episode. Thank you.
What's up, everyone?
Thank you. And again, this won't be like everyone's doing election episodes right now, and this will not be like any of the other ones. Adam Carolla is going to come on and talk about how boys are not being raised properly. They're not men anymore. And usually at some point in the conversation, if they go long enough, like I said, and this is important, tied in there somewhere is, the consequences of this, which most people in this movement that is in the movement that is kind of addressing this, ultimately it leads to children out of wedlock. It leads to marriages falling apart. Like I said, the destruction of the family, the whole thing. Let me give you a little background on the past of Adam Carolla, okay? Well, three issues I have with him. Number one, as I pertaining to what I just said about Hollywood, he's a comedian that has been known to do jokes with kind of like rough sexual content. Like I said, vulgarities. Okay, I'm not trying to be a prude. I'm just saying, okay, this guy's now going to talk about the moral decline of the country with the kind of humor that he is involved in. Okay, fine. The other issue is he was an original host of The Man Show with Jimmy Kimmel. Now, the conservatives have had a lot to say about Jimmy Kimmel. I have too. I, like many others, don't like being lectured by a guy who, again, he's apparently Jimmy Kimmel's concerned with the moral decline of the country, women's issues. And this is a guy who was on a show, The Man Show, they had that segment, girls jumping on trampolines, which is just as bad as Mary Lou's Coffee, in my opinion. Just exploiting girls to the highest level, as they can be exploited to their fullest potential. And there was Adam Carolla right next to Jimmy Kimmel. Now, if we're going to scold Jimmy Kimmel for this, why don't we scold Adam Carolla? But the ultimate crime, in my opinion, as it pertains to Adam Carolla, was he was part of this movement that I've talked about many times in this show. My age group, when I was a teenager in the 90s, there was money, there was a lot of money, time, power thrown into captivating the attention of my age group, promoting that we sleep with as many people as possible, create as much carnage as possible, don't pick up after our mess, be as inebriated as possible, smoke as much weed as possible, and that the adults telling you not to do that, they're squares, they don't know what they're talking about. Vote Bill Clinton, vote for the ultimate baby boomer, that whole movement. The leader of the baby boomer, of the 60s generation, Bill Clinton, that's what he was. During that time, Adam Carolla was part of that. If you remember, Adam Carolla was, again, another show that he was a co-host for. There was a show back then, and again, I think these themes just keep reappearing on this show. I'm pretty sure I've talked about this show. There was a show called Loveline. It was Dr. Drew and Adam Carolla. Now, much like I've picked apart when I was a kid, how when we were starting in the 5th grade, we had a sex education class. And it's always kind of marketed as health class and this and that, but the little, it was a one-day thing that we had. It was this like movie you watched and you get a permission slip. And I often talk about how it just deteriorated into this pornographic discussion that all it did was teach the kids things that they didn't know or might not find out about for another 5 years. And now they were learning about it thanks to the public education system in my little elementary school. Well, likewise, this show Loveline, it would come on late at night. Brian, do you remember this show Loveline, or are you too young? You do remember? Okay. So what would happen is it would come on late at night. And the premise was kids are afraid. Kids are having sex. Kids are pregnant. Kids, they're too afraid to turn to their parents. So what are we going to do? We're going to set up a hotline on MTV. That's the answer. MTV. MTV at the beach house. The Grind. The Real World. They're going to step in and be the authority figure on this. And what they did was they set up a TV show, and it was Dr. Drew with Adam Carolla as the co-host. And kids would call in with sex questions. And again, it just turned into this free-for-all. Like, it strayed so far from helping people, or not that, I mean, I don't even think that was even the original purpose anyway. I think the ultimate outcome is what they wanted. Rather than trying to help kids or educate them, it just turned into this big discussion about sex and promiscuity, and it's teenagers from around the country calling in, and you got Adam and Carolla and Dr. Drew kind of being the mediators of this conversation. Even if you remember, even if the question was serious, even when it got too serious, Adam Carolla was there to make the joke and to make it vulgar again. So you've got an adult making vulgar sex jokes with teenagers. Now, if any one of you in the audience did this or was caught doing this, you'd be in jail, you'd be in the news. Sky 7 would be over your house, filming you and the tree that fell on your garage. But Adam Carolla could do this. So this depravity, my point is this moral decline of the country and where its roots are, how we got here, where it started. Notice I said Bill Clinton. MTV got behind Bill Clinton. Where are the roots of this movement? The 60s, the hippie generation. That was Bill and Hillary. They were a product of that. They represented that. And then the baby boomers voted for Bill. And who got behind it? MTV, creating the next generation with shows like Loveline, Adam Carolla, Dr. Drew. So when the Republicans use their formats in their platforms, in their shows, to talk about the moral decline of the country, or maybe they're talking about the way boys are being raised as a branch of that topic, who do they bring in to help them out with this? Adam Carolla. This is what I talk about when I mention the identity crisis of the Republicans. They are having an identity crisis. Now, Adam Carolla, I've heard him on other shows, other podcasts. He's no different. There's other celebrities, other people that kind of think like him and are saying the same thing. Now, I'm not using any exact words that he uses, but there's been times in this movement that I'm talking about that's trying to combat the feminization of boys. One of the things they kind of endorse, and I've definitely heard Adam Carolla do this, is that we need to go back to, I don't know, kind of like the days of like the fawns. I don't know how you would say it, like the poodle skirts where, there's an old episode of the Brady Bunch, which I love quoting that show. Greg Brady is having a tough time. There's a girl that he likes. He can't get her attention, but he sees this boy. It's a famous scene in the Brady Bunch show. This guy walks up to the girl who's ignoring Greg. She's sitting on a bench at school reading her book, her history book, or whatever. The guy just yanks it out of her hand. What you reading, babe? Right? And so she's like, and Greg just notices like this guy, he's a go-getter. He takes what he wants. He rips the book out of her hand. He's rude to her, and yet this is enough to attract her. And this is kind of like a lot of these people, Adam Carolla included, kind of imply that we got to go back to this kind of like cowboy mentality when it comes to women. And, you know, what goes along with that, again, is the kind of like sexual conquest and the sleeping around. And that's, again, I don't know how Republicans don't have a radar for this. You want to go back to that. Isn't that what got us in this mess in the first place? There could be nothing more anti-monogamous relationship than what you're endorsing right now. The guys going out there pillaging. I mean, it sounds to me like they're almost implying what MTV has been implying with the help of the liberals. Sleep around, act like a maniac. I mean, we need back to the days when the guys just, they acted like men and they were tough guys. They'd get in a fist fight, then they'd take a girl home and sleep with her and then say, get out of here, I'll call you if I feel like it. I mean, this is what you want to go back to. And Republicans are okay with this? In the midst of talking about the destruction of the family, about how young boys are being raised improperly, this is what you want to endorse? And you got people like Adam Carolla as your spokesperson for this movement? And it doesn't stop there. I listened to an interview. I think it was with one of Donald Trump's kids, talking about his family. The Trump family has this like relationship now with Kid Rock. And again, I'm not judging who people are friends with. And the Republicans and the conservatives know they gotta kind of bring in some of that star power, that Hollywood celebrity. I get it. I know. It's not that I'm saying don't have Adam Carolla on the show or don't join forces with him. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, why is there no acknowledgement at all of how these people were part of this mess? They got us into this mess. I talk a lot about there's celebrities now that you got Mark Wahlberg now. Is preaching religion. Good for him. That's great. If he's changed his life around this, that. Look at what he has been involved in. Ted, a teddy bear that's making sexual jokes and drug jokes. Millions of teenagers watched that movie and thought it was hilarious. And it was just another film, another piece of entertainment that influenced how they live. We said for years, it's just TV. It doesn't matter. It's up to the parents. Television, movies, music is what got us here. It does have influence, whether you like it or not. Miley Cyrus might be writing lyrics about imaginary scenarios, but she is still influencing kids to behave a certain way. Look at Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Mark Wahlberg. Look at the films they have made about this area. They have portrayed us as a bunch of criminals. People ask me about this. Is it really like living in the town? I hope not. I hope not. The Town. That's a real creative title for a movie. I just don't understand how and then they move. They're all living in California. They make these films, portray us to be a bunch of morons, a bunch of thugs, a bunch of monkeys, and then they go to California and count their money. Adam Carolla saying he's talking about the wimpification of boys. Adam Carolla, no offense. I mean, some of these people that are giving this message about how men are not tough anymore, I mean, this message isn't coming from guys who look like Conan the Barbarian. Let's just put it that way. Back to Trump for a minute. Let's look at Kid Rock. Again, where did he come from? What movement was he part of? He was part of that era with all these things coming together that are, let me say this first of all. I want to say this first. It's not just music or just TV. It's all of it together. It's entire movements and how they're intertwined. I started watching the UFC. First one I ever saw was UFC 5. First one I ever saw. I have been a spectator. I've been an athlete I still train to this day. Grappling, MMA, judo, whatever category you want to call it. I've been involved from the sidelines and in the gym. It's one of the few sports that I kind of have stuck with over the years because I'm not really big into sports, but I do like martial arts. And I'm real careful how I say this because I'm surrounded by these people all the time. But I feel like I've held back a bit, and it needs to start being said. All these, when I talk about MTV, the Attitude Era of WWE, Girls Gone Wild, the stripper pole culture, that time period when every song on the radio was about strippers on 94.5 out here in Massachusetts. The UFC was part of that. I didn't like the direction when Dana White took over. The ring girls, the alcohol promotions, all of that. It was tied in with, and look at, you got like UFC fighters leaving and going to the WWE. You've had some from WWE going over the UFC. They're all combined. Then you turn on MTV, and they've got a reality show about WWE. And you stay up late enough, you're watching Comedy Central, the man show, girls jumping on trampolines. And then what comes on? Girls Gone Wild. Girls Gone Wild commercial. Oh, and who was one of the hosts after Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla left? Oh, Joe Rogan. Back to UFC again. Fear Factor, a show where I think a big part of that show was, remember they used to put the girls in the bathing suits? That was a big part of it. Just get those girls in the bathing suits so we can all see. I mean, this is ring girls, UFC. It's all tied in. So these organizations, these endeavors, these figureheads that are out there, the moral decline, we got to get the country back on track. A lot of these people helped us get where we are. The identity crisis with Republicans. You know what else is getting real nasty? I've talked about how I went to Catholic school. I feel like the form of Christianity that was taught to me was very forgiving. Jesus was a loving person. He turned the other cheek. He didn't fight back. The religion's getting real nasty. It's almost turning into this like war type religion now. Like, go out, get people. It's got this like mentality to it now. It's almost like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not very sympathetic. Again, kind of tied in again with this looking at kids, especially boys, like, oh, we got to toughen them up. Well, what does that mean? So now we're just going to we're going to go back to turning them into animals. I don't think it's that bad. I get that the kids are getting weak, but I also think it's not a bad thing to try to stop them from bullying each other at school. Is that such a bad thing? Maybe it is. Some people think it is. Yeah, when I was a kid, you'd get in a fist fight, and it wasn't that big of a deal. You'd get in trouble, but your parents didn't get called. Okay, I get it. But it just seems like people who are calling themselves religious are just becoming really aggressive and unforgiving. And, if you can't keep up, that's your problem. If the 18-wheeler runs you over, that's not our problem. Toughen up. I mean, what type of Christian message is that? Maybe someone's going through a rough time. You're going to yell at them and tell them to push the feelings away. Forget that this is happening. I don't think that has worked either. I don't think that's gotten us anywhere. But that is the mentality of a lot of Christians right now. And again, you have people like Adam Carolla also delivering this message. I mean, again, the people, yes, there's a lot of tough guys saying it who maybe have shown that they're tough guys and maybe have some platform to stand on. But then you got other guys that are like, dude, come on. You're the one telling me this? Stop it. Stop it. You look like you haven't done a sit-up in your life, and now you're gonna talk to me about, but I can't keep up with you. Okay. Now let's move on to the Democrats. So we got the Republic pukes and now the Demo criminals. Let's move over to them. Kamala Harris. How do we say her name, Brian? Do you know? I still don't get this. Kamala. Is it okay if I say Kamala? That's the old way to say it.
Anything you want. Anything
Kamala,
you want,
Kamala,
sugar.
Kamala. Okay, Kamala. All right. Ugh.
K-Money.
Kamala Harris. I've seen her on several occasions. I might have seen it in commercials. I've seen her say it at her rallies. Okay. I got some advice for Kamala. Kamala, if I was you, I would not get on a microphone and talk about how expensive everything is and how everyone's struggling. Because you and Joe Biden have been in office for 4 years. Now, there's two things I want to say about that. Number one, it probably doesn't matter because there are people voting for her that don't piece that together. They don't make that connection. I also think, I've said this many times, and this is kind of counterintuitive to what I believe, but I guess it's more advice if you're running for president. Let me straighten this out. We have a country of checks and balances. The presidential seat is one aspect of it. Just because the president thinks this way or that way doesn't mean the president has all dominance over the entire country. They preside over the Congress. It doesn't mean they run the country or they run Congress. Now, I understand that, but a lot of people probably voting in this day and age don't. So knowing they don't understand that, my advice to Kamala would be, Kamala, don't draw attention to that. I talked about how we've tried getting various politicians on this show. I've sent emails out. I'd love to have Elizabeth Warren on here. I want to ask her. Because she's just like a Barack Obama. Barack Obama's like, oh, folks are struggling. Folks are struggling. The guy's in office for 8 years. He's telling you to vote for Hillary or vote for, folks are struggling. It's like, dude, why are folks struggling? You're the one who's been the president, and now we're going to vote for you again. And he'd attack Donald Trump. You got two clear choices. You got one person who's been in office, but how are you going to vote for a person who doesn't know the job? Remember when Scott Brown was running? He came out here and he was campaigning for whoever was running. And I think it was Elizabeth Warren. He's like, oh, Scott Brown, get in that truck, get in that pickup truck, driving around the state, getting people to vote for him.
He's also another one that came out of office millionaire, right?
Yeah. Yep.
It's a hot job.
It is. A lot of money in it. Your life is good if you become president. But what I would want to ask Elizabeth Warren is this. Elizabeth, you are part of an organization that has been running this state, that has been dominant in this state. I have lived here my whole life. I have lived on the South Shore my whole life. I have never lived anywhere else. In the last year, maybe year and a half, I have now seen the accumulation of poor and homeless mothers with baby carriages, with babies and kids at stop signs and stoplights around the South Shore. And I can name the spots. I can tell you exactly where you can see them. And they're holding up signs. They're homeless. They need money. I need diapers, whatever it is. That was not there 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. This is the land of the Kennedys, of the Democrats. You are in the thick of it. This is if you let Democrats run your state with nobody stopping them, when they get everything they want, they are able to run the state the way they want. That's what Massachusetts is. So according to you, Elizabeth, the Republican is the enemy. The people here have trusted you. They have voted for you. I've voted for Democrats in the past. We all have. How did this happen, Elizabeth? Explain how this happened, because you're at the steering wheel. How is this possible with you, Mara Haley, Janet Wu, with all you people running this state? How is this possible? You've been entrusted. People have believed in the Democrat Party way. We handed you the keys. Okay, we'll vote for you, Elizabeth. What is the excuse? Why are there homeless women at those stop signs and stoplights? How is this possible? Oh, by the way, there is this man. I meant to watch. I should have watched it before I came on here. There's this kind of like anti-abortion commercial that they ran during the Republican Party or Trump people or somebody paid for it.
Do you want to watch it?
We could watch it, but we got to make sure we got the right one. They made them. Well, here's the funny part about it. It was airing on ABC. They ran it during The View. Now, I've talked a lot about like Whoopi Goldberg and the abortion topic. The people at The View got to be pulling their hairs out because at the beginning, ABC, I've never seen this before, put a disclaimer at the beginning and end. So every time the commercial comes on, it's like what you are about to see are sensitive images. ABC does not endorse this, but was forced to put this on. So it's like they can't say no because of whatever the laws are for commercials. And they've been running this thing. There's a guy, I don't know who the guy's supposed to be portrayed, but they've got a guy with like Einstein hair. If you pull it up on YouTube, Brian, you'll see a guy with like frizzy hair, almost looking like an Einstein dude. Now, I don't know if that's someone I'm supposed to know who he is and they're impersonating him. But anyway, at one point in the commercial, that there's like an anti-abortion message. Dear God, they have a photo. Man, I'm telling you, I guess it's an aborted baby, or if it's not, it's a born baby, but they're trying to show this is the size of a baby that it's legal to abort. I don't know what the message was, but it was like crazy. I couldn't believe they were getting away with this on daytime TV. And he made a comment about like Planned Parenthood targeting black people. Really crazy. Really, I mean, this is I've been saying forever the pro-life movement should make a commercial like this if they really want to get their message out and run it during a show like The View or whatever. They finally did it. And again, the reason it took them so long to do it is because, like I've said before, conservatives just aren't that smart. They take too long. They're too slow. It took them decades to finally run a commercial like this. So there it is. It's on. And normally I can see the computer screen. I can't see it now, so I guess I'm at the mercy of Brian. But if he does find it, again, Brian, it's the guy with like, I'm describing him as looking like Albert Einstein. And he's got glasses. Do you think you found it?
Yeah, hang on. I'm going to pause the show real quick. We'll be right back, folks. We're back.
All right, we're back. We just did a quick edit. Me and Brian just paused for a minute. Now we're back on. You, the audience, won't notice. It'll be seamless. We do these edits sometimes. But here's the deal. We didn't search long, but we could maybe find the ad if we looked for a little while. What we did find is a kind of a clip where there's a person describing what the commercial is, and it's brutal. Mind you, I want to say before we play this clip that both times I saw this, I was kind of like in another room and heard it from a distance and came running in. So I haven't really sat down and watched the whole thing beginning to end. But this is crazy. This guy's going to describe what I saw part of this, but he's going to kind of, you don't even need to see the commercial. Just listen to what they're talking about. Brian, I got to bring it. Okay. Just listen to this. And here's the commercial. This guy's going to describe what it was I saw. And I can't believe, just listen. Here we go.
ABC warned its audience before airing a disturbing political ad the network said it was required to broadcast during a live episode of The View, with the commercial depicting graphic imagery from abortions and comparing several celebrities, including all 6 co-hosts of The View, to Nazis. During the show's final commercial break on Thursday, a warning message appeared on screen, reading, "The following is a paid political advertisement and the ABC television network is required to carry it by federal law. The advertisement contains scenes that may be disturbing to children. Viewer discretion is advised. The explicit clip, fronted by presidential candidate and anti-abortion activist Randall Terry, opened with a shot of Miley Cyrus, pictured with a cake topped with the message "abortion is healthcare," and an image of Whoopi Goldberg seated at the View Hot Topics table. "I am so sick of stupid celebrities and lying journalists," Terry says via voiceover in the ad, before its footage displays images of View stars Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Anna Navarro, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah Griffin, broadcasters Jake Tapper, Wolf Blitzer, and Dana Bash, and famous figures like Oprah Winfrey, Taylor Swift, Samuel L. Jackson, Chris Evans, Billie Eilish, Scarlett Johansson, and more. The commercial then shows multiple images of fetuses and later images of abortion procedures. "Why don't you fools follow the science?" Terry asks. "These are dead human beings, murdered by abortion that you promote. If history even remembers you, you'll be remembered like Leni Riefenstahl and Joseph Goebbels. The name of the wicked will rot." Terry continues near the end of the anti-Kamala Harris ad, invoking the names of prominent Nazi figures. After the clip played on air, ABC followed up with another text statement that read, "The preceding was a paid political advertisement that the..."
Just real quick, that's what I was talking about. It was there at the beginning and the end. Okay.
ABC
Oh, by the way, this is called World 11 News. It looks like a YouTube channel. I just want to give them credit for putting this out. Okay.
television network was required to carry under federal law. The advertisement contains scenes that may be disturbing to viewers. Local ABC affiliates addressed the ad online, with Chicago's network station providing an editorial note explaining the commercial to its audience. According to the FCC, broadcast stations are prohibited from censoring or rejecting political ads that are paid for and sponsored by legally qualified candidates, the Post said. Terry will be on the ballot in at least 12 states, so has met the criteria to be considered a legally qualified candidate. In response to Entertainment Weekly's request for comment, an FCC representative points to a fact sheet on political programming rules, including a section outlining that broadcast stations are...
Now they're just talking about the legal stuff. Here you go, Brian. I just wanted that description of what it was I saw, because it was crazy. It's funny because the naming of the celebrities and putting them on the spot, this is stuff I've been saying for years and years and years they should be doing. I've been saying this for years. Why did it take them so long to make these connections with the... Forget abortion for a minute. Just forget that. Even if that's not like your issue or you don't care about it, just the influence that someone like Miley Cyrus has on your kids. What she sings about, drug use, sleeping around. You go back to even like during the Britney Spears days, and Britney Spears marketed it like she's a tough girl and you should be intimidated by her. Guys who can't hang with Britney need to take a seat. Then look how her life fell apart. So yeah, that was, I just want to bring up that commercial. That commercial was pretty brutal.
Have you seen Miley Cyrus live like 7-8 years ago?
8 years ago?
Something like that.
I've seen her in all eras of her career.
She went through a stage.
Yeah, she did.
With inflatables.
Yeah, she absolutely did. Yeah. And I think that's probably around the time she put that cake out that they're talking about. She had that song. There's a song where it sounds like she's talking about like doing pills in the bathroom or something.
That's like half the radio.
Right, yeah. It's not just her. You're right. Like I said, before that, I remember the time when every other song was about strippers. The thong song. All these girls that grew up on the thong song. Girls that
Classic.
Didn't even know what a thong was, and now they're all wearing them. All of them. I remember when I got the first taste of that when I was working at the Pembroke Hospital, taking the girls in to do their laundry. It was like every single one. I mean, I couldn't believe how young these girls were.
The
with their thongs.
sexual liberation movement
They were liberated.
Pushed on up.
Cisco liberated them.
No accountability, no responsibility.
Right. So anyway, the conservatives are they're too slow. They're too slow to jump on top of this. This is another kind of aspect of this. And again, I'm just commenting on what is discussed as we reach this election. These are the topics. I'm just addressing them and kind of
Not COVID.
picking them apart.
Nothing about COVID.
I can't, Brian, they didn't try pulling it. They didn't pull the coronavirus card. They didn't do it. I'm actually kind of happy about that.
They hung everything over your head for those things, and no one has mentioned it in the past year.
You're right, which I'm happy about.
But you don't think it's odd?
I guess it's, yeah, it is kind of odd that, yeah. Like,
Good. Okay.
yeah, it is odd. Like, I wonder, like, why isn't there, like, a new disease we should be afraid of or something? Like, what's, I don't, who knows how these people think?
What these people are running on.
Right, what they're running on. Pills that they found in a Miley Cyrus video. Another part of this that just amazes me is topics that are mainstream now that were almost impossible to explain to a conservative 20 years ago. For example, 20 years ago, and this is coming from someone who has been in this for a very, very long time, if I tried telling a conservative about the communist takeover, about what their government is doing, how their law enforcement agencies are corrupt, the conservative would be almost on the edge of tears. They would want to fight you, not in my country. If you don't like it, get out. And I laugh all the time when I hear conservatives complaining about the country and we're turning communist. Hey, if you don't like it, get out. That's what you told me for 20 years. If you don't like it, get out.
It's more Marxist than communist.
Right. I think.
I mean.
No, you're right.
You get what I mean.
Right, but they use communism as like the cliche to like describe it. And I do think a lot of these politicians did study the Communist Manifesto and all that when they're in college.
Kamala's she's running on some of it.
Right.
Be unburdened by what has been. That is
right.
That's in that.
Right. So, I was doing my Kamala impersonation before we started. You better think a union worker. You better think, if you got a vacation, you better think a union worker. I know that this is the way.
She threw on a New York accent.
She talks like this. Well, first, okay, she does two different things. Listen, I know what it's like to work at McDonald's, okay? Like, she does that. But then she was doing this, what are they called? Rally, right? Where it was for
I heard a couple of those.
Yeah, it was for the union where you better think a union worker. She's doing this like 1920s, like Liza Minnelli vaudeville
She's
voice.
Appropriating.
I guess so. Like, what is that all about? And I'm so sick of the
pandering to an audience.
Listen, man, as someone who's I've been in a union since I was a kid, a teenager. I am so sick of it. Do me a favor. Don't thank me. I don't want you thanking me for anything. I didn't do anything for you. I'm so sick of this union. The union. How about that guy? Did you catch the guy, the head of the union during the longshoreman strike? That guy.
He got like a mansion out of that.
Yeah. But do you ever hear the clips of him? You never heard of the longshoreman? Let me back away from the mic so I don't miss a. You don't hear about the longshoreman. We'll cripple you. Yeah, we'll cripple you. This guy, I heard one of the talk shows. The guy comes on. It was like the two guys that took over for Rush Limbaugh, Clay and Buck. He comes on. He goes, "I'd like to thank that guy for doing his best, like mafia Tony Soprano impersonation." But I'm just so sick of that. Like, yeah, you don't do what we say, we'll cripple you. Like, dude, I think the world's getting sick of that, and I don't,
Well, he's kind of talking right, because if it stops all the
definitely.
Of food, it's like the truck drivers.
I'm not saying he can't do it, but like, like they said in the show I was listening to, they go, this isn't really helping this guy's cause, because there's a lot of people out there that are just kind of sick of hearing, like you said, the guy that's living in, he's making all this money, but he wants even more money, and if you don't bow to his will, he's going to use his union against you. I do think people are a little exhausted on that. But, you've got all these concepts now about the government, a corrupt government in America. America's not what it used to be. Trying to tell a conservative 25 years ago that the FBI, see, here's the other thing they do too. I've talked about this on the show many times. Oh, now the FBI is corrupt. Now? You think this just happened?
This is all taking a very long time.
What is?
This has been taking a long
For them
time.
to figure it out.
This whole
the-
design, the system
It's
is doing
taken
exactly
right.
what it's meant to do.
It's taken a long time. It's supposed to take a long time because it's easier to trick people that way. But it's also taking the conservative too long to figure this out. That's the other problem. And all these, man, go back 30 years ago. Hey, man, the CIA is being controlled by this kind of like left-wing entity that's not looking out for the best interest of the country, and these federal law enforcement agencies are corrupt, whether it's the CIA or Homeland Security or the National Security Agency. Man, you could not tell these guys this. I'm going to tell everyone in the audience this. All these conservatives that you're surrounded by, these baby boomer conservatives that go on and on about the weaponization of law enforcement, trust me, 99% of those people in your life that are now warning you about this, you could not tell them this 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It was impossible. They would get mad. They thought you were the communists for telling them. Look back and we talk about like Ruby Ridge in Waco, Texas. Think if that happened now, the rallying there would be of people rallying to the side of David Koresh, right?
What do you mean?
Meaning if think of all the support someone like David Koresh would get right now if something like that happened.
Another what? Another Waco?
Yeah, if another Waco happened right now.
Another case where the government found out of a stockpile of self-defense weapons?
Yes. And let's not forget, David Koresh was doing things he shouldn't be doing. I'm not defending any of that.
Well, if you're doing like fucked up shit,
Right.
then you're doing fucked up shit.
You are. But Brian, my point is, if right now, remember we talked about that guy, I think it was either in Utah or Arizona, that the FBI killed. We did a whole episode on
Yeah,
it.
we did, yeah.
Okay. That was all over the talk stations, everywhere. And it was all, now the
It was
story,
over a Facebook post, right?
yes, the story wasn't that big, but where it was getting exposure, it was universally the conservatives in the audience calling into the shows were behind this guy. Now, when Waco happened and the conservative shows were talking about it, it was controversial. Some people were for him, some were against him. Now, when something like this happens, there's like this rally where conservatives get behind. This is a case of them taking our guns. We got to get behind this guy, okay? What I'm saying is that caution, that suspicion of the government was not there back when the whole Waco when the Branch Davidian compound was attacked. Okay, it just wasn't there. In fact, I was one of the few people. The people that thought it was messed up were actually in the minority, if you can believe that. I was one of those people in the minority. And all these people now who kind of reference back to situations like what happened with David Koresh, most of them, I'm telling the people in the audience, that most of them at that time were not supportive of him. And again, I'm not saying David Koresh was a good guy. I'm just telling you, it took a lot of people. What was that, 30 years ago? 93 when that happened, I think. So we're talking 31 years later. It took people 31 years to go, geez, the ATF. Now you hear everywhere you hear the ATF. That's another one of those agencies. The ATF's corrupt. The ATF's taking our guns away. When someone like me tried telling people that back then, it just wasn't happening.
Well, when people talk about the government, they mean all that. It's an umbrella for all those agencies.
I know.
All the
Right,
three-letter.
Right. But Brian, I'm telling you, the suspicion of the ATF was not there. David Koresh could have used that help.
The alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Right.
Okay.
You know what else gets me too? How this is the other one that is just so. Alcohol. All right, we're gonna regulate alcohol. Check. Tobacco. Check. Firearms. Like, what's that gonna do with the other two? That's what the Secret Service also deals with counterfeit money. What does protecting the president and counterfeit money have to do with each other? And now they're the ones studying school shootings too. And that's, by the way, I want to say that too. The CIA, as Jesse Ventura pointed out many times, the mission of the CIA was to gather intelligence from other countries to apparently protect this country, gather evidence, information. The CIA studies you, Brian. They have people that all day long study our behavior, our social trends.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, we want to welcome the CIA agents that are in the audience. I'm actually more worried about Mara Haley. I've said a bunch of times, I could see her having this building shut down if she ever found out about this show. But anyway, the CIA is studying. Your tax dollars are extracted from your paycheck. They go to the government, and then that money is used to study you.
A lot of it goes overseas.
And for that too. And for years and years and years, you had conservatives saying the good people at the CIA protecting us. Now the conservatives are saying the CIA is corrupt. Took them 30 years to figure it out, but at least they got to the finish line. Better 30 years too late when you can't fix anything. But how does that make you feel that they're studying you? Studying your behavior, your trends, collecting data on you. Why is the CIA studying me and keeping records of me and the people in my town, in my state, in my country?
Why are there cameras going up everywhere?
Why?
Why?
Brian, we've killed this. What else can we say about that topic?
What's 5G really for?
You know what, Brian? I found some new
My phone doesn't go any faster.
There's some up in Hanover, filming up and down Route 53. I just discovered them the other day. I'm always on the lookout for them. There's some in Hanover now.
Speed trackers?
I mean, yeah, maybe that's it. But
go a little too fast, they give you a letter in the mail with a bill.
That's the other one that I love. This is where, again, where the conservative is just a complete monkey. You can put 5 cameras on his house and study him. You can stick helicopters flying over his house, watching his wife changing through the window. He's okay with that. The monkey is okay with that. But the second there's an implication, if you tell this same chimpanzee with his chimpanzee ears, we got chimpanzee ears. Look in the mirror, dude. We're monkeys. Don't tell me you're not a monkey. You're a monkey. The minute that camera is used to give you a speeding ticket, now here he comes. Now he's protesting. He's got his signs. He's down at the town hall. You can put 100 cameras on a conservative, and he will not complain about it until there's an implication. For example, facial recognition will freak him out. But just a regular camera pointed at him that doesn't have facial recognition or is not catching him whether or not he's going through a stop sign, that he's okay with.
Keep in mind, a good reason to want all that is so you can monitor the rising crime that's not being reported.
That too. And look, this has been the entire basis of their argument. We put cameras everywhere to dilute crime. And I've said before too, part of this is our fault. We as a society act like animals. And I almost don't even like using that word animal because it's discrediting animals. I don't even think animals deserve to be put in that category. The way we behave, throwing our trash all over the ground, getting in fights out in public. If you behave like a Neanderthal, your local police will point cameras at you and catch you acting like this. Now, what I've tried to tell the conservatives is, and what they don't get, again, the conservative has a very difficult time putting 2 and 2 together. He can't do it. And it takes him 30 years to do it. And then when he does it, he acts like he was on your side the whole time. Like he wasn't scolding you. Like he wasn't ridiculing people like me. What the conservative doesn't get, and liberals don't get this either. Liberals should be concerned with this too. People should be concerned about it. The starting point of the facial recognition camera, of the camera that's catching people going through stop signs and then mailing you a ticket or monitoring your speeding, as you said, Brian, right?
Watching how many tomatoes you buy.
Right. Okay. The camera on your phone. Okay, let's use that as an example. The camera that they say is on your phone.
That's a different animal.
Right. But the starting point, Brian, back around 2001, around the Columbine era, when the cameras started going up in all the malls where we have school shootings out. I tried telling this ape what this was going to lead to. And what did he do? He got angry. He got upset. Not in my country, man. If you don't like it, get out. Do you know how many times that was told to me? Dudes wanted to fight me when I tried telling Brian the best, and this stuff is all true. I've told this story on the show. It's all true. I would tell
And by
people,
apes, you mean conservatives, right?
liberals too, people, the human race. Right now, we're talking about the
You
conservatives.
did say conservatives, liberals, and
Yeah,
people.
I-
So there are three different things.
Yeah. I think we, in general, are acting like a bunch of Neanderthals and Cro-Mags. But yes, everybody. But right now, I'm specifically having a conversation about the conservatives. I'll put it that way. I can't tell you how many times I told people, listen, this system they have over in England, over in the United Kingdom, the country is blanketed in cameras. Mind you, that fight is done. That civilization over across the pond, as they say, has accepted it. There's no reversing it. The United Kingdom is a surveillance state. Nothing's going to stop it. This is what they are. Accept it, study it, fall in love with it, because that's what it is if you live there. Now, I told people that system is coming here. I saw documentaries where American law enforcement was working with British law enforcement to bring it here.
They're getting trained by the IDF.
And people in both countries, yes, people in both countries, ecstatic to bring it here. And I would tell these conservatives, hey man, and liberals too, your country, this United States where you stand, is going to be blanketed in cameras. And what would the conservatives say? What would the liberals say too? Not over my dead body.
London has the most, I think,
Not in my-
statistically. Cameras per person.
I can't quote it because I don't have it in front of me. I've done some studying, Brian. I've looked at some charts. You would be surprised. I am pretty sure we have surpassed England, but I could be wrong. But we are up there. We are one of the most surveyed countries in the world, and this is the United States. And these guys would get mad. Not in my America. That would never happen here. If you don't like it, get out.
It is. China with 200 million CCTV
Is that number
cameras.
one?
United States is second with 50
There you go.
million. 50 million. Germany with 5.2.
How's that make you feel?
UK at 5. Well, this is
I mean the audience. How's that make the audience feel?
just CCTV.
Right. And that's the system that England made famous. They were the pioneers in that.
700 million in China. There was a different list that I saw.
All these people I would tell about this, they acted like they were going to be the one to stop it too. Not in my America. Yeah, like you're going to stop it. Okay. Not only did they not stop it, they fully accepted it and they don't even talk about it anymore.
Regarding the number of cameras per person,
Okay.
the United States remains a clear leader in the world.
Okay. How does that make you feel in the audience? How does that make you feel? How does that make you feel?
That was from Bill Gates.
We are the
Google.
leader. The leader. The freest country in the world has the most cameras per person. Perfect. And nobody's worried about it. It is not a topic during this campaign. It won't be a topic during the next campaign. And as I've said on this show many times, it is the biggest infringement of your freedom. And no one's even talking about it. I am laughed at and mocked for even bringing it up. People calling me tinfoil hat or whatever insults they have for me. So anyway, I want to finish up with a few observations about democracy. What I'm going to say next was something that when I first heard it was very difficult for me to accept, as it would be difficult for most Americans. But now I've come to understand it. This concept that there is a negative side to democracy. And it's this. I'll explain it in my way. Democracy is a default, right, Brian's doing the quotations. That too. It's a backup plan. You resort to democracy when you can't agree. In other words, a righteous society of morality can agree universally on what is right and what is wrong. We resort to democracy when we no longer have that agreement. And the problem there is, with democracy, it's mob rule. So the majority could vote for something that is not in the best interest of the country or the group of people. For example, I heard this great quote the other day. I don't know who said it, but they said in democracy, 4 people can vote to eat the other 3. Yeah, that's democracy. Yeah. Well, democracy, they voted. So democracy isn't always in your best interest.
And freedom is that 49% have to do something they didn't vote for.
Right. That too. If you didn't vote for it, you're saying if I didn't vote for it, I'm still stuck going with. And that brings me to another thing too. I really believe a big problem here is the 2-party system. Think about this. Let's say I bring you into Burlington Coat Factory, and there's 50 different coats, colors, all different stuff. You could get like sports teams on the back or cartoon characters, whatever, all sorts of stuff. What if I took you and I said, look, this is all the coats. We got 50 coats, and everyone in the country has 50 different choices that they can buy from this catalog. It's going to be the only coat factory, but there's 50 different choices.
Who owns it, by the way?
Dick Cheney.
One person owns it? Okay.
Yeah. But, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take away 48 of them. I'm going to randomly pick 2 coats. And now those 2 coats, regardless of the design or the color, or even the size, even if it's not your size, these 2 coats have to now facilitate the beliefs of every single person in this country. You would look at me like I'm crazy, but yet that's what we've done with politics.
Talk about the amount of parties there should be. And
Brian, if you had 4 or 5 parties, do you know how that would change the political spectrum? And people would be happier too. Because what if there was like a party that was kind of like, I mean, I know this is cliche, but what if there was like a party right in the middle? And let's say that party won. Conservatives would be able to say, well, it's not everything, but it's some of the stuff. Liberals would be able to say the same thing. That guy doesn't agree with everything that I say, but he's got some good points there. Rather than this black and white, it's
to
all...
answer your question is
Yeah.
just the duality of man.
Right.
This or that. Red or blue.
Right.
As above, so below.
And I don't like it. It's the tendency of human beings. And I think that's why when I ask this question, why can't anyone see? It just seems so obvious to me how crazy the 2-party system is. And yet America seems to not have a problem with it. They're going along with it.
But it's funny because they're friends when they're off stage. They all hang out.
Oh,
and
definitely.
shit.
Jesse Ventura, who I love, talked about this all the time. He said it's behind the scenes. It's like the WWF. Do you ever hear that, Brian? Speaking of the CIA, I'll tell
Speaking
you.
of the WWF
Yeah.
and politics,
What?
that was a good one.
Yeah. You wouldn't connect the two, but
Jesse Ventura.
yeah, he tells this wild story, crazy story about when he became. And again, I'm a big Jesse Ventura fan. Well, I'm from Minnesota. I can't.
Him and Mean Gene Oakland were nasty at commentating.
Oh no, it was Gorilla Monsoon.
Gorilla Monsoon.
Monsoon and
I remember
Jesse
Mean
Ventura
Gene,
were
the Mean Gene
awesome.
days.
Yeah, but Mean Gene would be interviewing the wrestlers, and then Gorilla and Jesse would be out at the event doing the. But yeah, I'm Jesse Ventura. I can't make laws. I'm from Minnesota. That's for the legislature. That's not for me. Right. So I love Jesse Ventura, and I really do like his politics. He was a groundbreaking guy when it came to attacking the 2-party system, because as you remember, he ran as this like outside guy, and he became the governor of Minnesota.
You're speaking as if you're a fan of an entertainment industry.
I know,
I'm
but
talking about politics.
I know, but do you acknowledge what he accomplished as a
Yeah.
politician?
Oh,
What
yeah.
was groundbreaking?
100%.
Right. Okay. And I know I just I had a lot to say about WWE, and now I'm like congratulating him. I know. Again, man, I'm in this world too. It's not easy.
You're shaking a lot of people awake right now.
Well, I'm stuck in the middle of it too. It's you can't, it's difficult when you're going against the grain. You're still surrounded by the grain. You know, you got to pick and choose your battles. But anyway, he tells this story, and how disturbing is this? After he got elected, a couple days later, he was asked by like one of his assistants, somebody, I don't know who it was, said, hey, there's some people that need to talk to you. And they went in the basement of like I don't know what it is, the Capitol State building, whatever they were working in, the governor's mansion.
The basements of those that no one gets to see.
Right,
Those are some
right.
old ass buildings.
He goes in this room, I believe it was in the basement, and there's a group of guys, like a group. He said there was like 10 of them. And they had like a circle of chairs, and there was an empty chair for him to sit down. And he sits down, and he's told, we're from the CIA. And they wanted to talk to him about how he got into office. How did he do this? How did he pull this off? I mean, it's a creepy story. And he went around, and this is where I think I heard him say, like, the CIA's mission statement is to collect information from other countries. It's not to be operating on our land. And they wanted to know they wanted to study this. How did you actually stand up against the two-party system and win? And he said, he said, first of all, I'm going to go around the room and I want every one of you to tell me who you are, what your name is, what your job at the CIA is. And he said none of them would tell him, but it was like really uncomfortable. And the big thing he portrayed in this story was what would freak you out, he kept saying, was they were just such normal looking people. Like they could be anywhere, like blending in society, right? And I think it's a crazy story that if you think of how messed up that is, he really doesn't tell the story a lot. I think I've seen 2 videos where he told it. You'd think he would, with his platform and the way he's so skeptical of the government, you would think he would bring it up more, and it's almost unbelievable that this happened. But
well,
again,
I mean, if you're vocal about the CIA, I imagine they're gonna fucking make you shut up eventually.
I know, Brian, but Brian, that's my... So let me say this. I'm glad you brought that out.
I'll mail you a box of crickets.
Again, I asked the audience this. All you in the audience, how does that make you feel? For years, we grew up being told that all these communist countries, if you speak up, the secret police comes, they show up, they take you away. How does it make you feel that we now talk about these agencies as if they were kind of like a secret police in a communist country? How does that make you feel about America? For years, we were told this does not happen here. We do not have these organizations here. That's China. That's the communist countries. And now we so openly make a comment like what Brian just said. And Brian's not wrong. We now fear our government. We fear these agencies. Now, again, I would make the argument you should have been fearing them 30 years ago as well, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. But the conservative thinks this just happened a couple of years ago.
Well, the Federal Reserve had a lot to do with that.
Well, you know what else, too, Brian, that cracks me up is look at John F. Kennedy, the way he was killed. To this day,
on national television,
they have fought tooth and nail to keep
was that on live TV?
I don't know if it was actually live, but where it got captured on tape, it ended up getting played.
Yeah.
Oh, like everybody saw it. I was talking to someone the other day about I remember when Reagan got shot, and they were just showing that. Oh, do you remember, Brian? Were you born yet? I don't know if. Yeah, because I was really, really little, but I remember it, and they were
that's
just.
That's what the TV does. It's
Right.
putting a fucking spell on you. It's drilling that
Brian,
shit into your head.
It's what, a 7-second clip? I just remember them showing that over and over and over and all day long.
Just learn the thing. Learn the thing.
Right.
Learn the history.
And how do you have these people, these baby boomers, that watched that guy get killed, all these years later, still haven't gotten an answer, and then they tell you, oh, The FBI just became corrupt a couple years ago with Joe Biden. Are you that dumb?
We can release the documents in like 75 years, guys. That's COVID, actually. Well, we can release the papers in a number of years. How's that? And then we're like, oh, okay.
And then they release the papers, but what's really on them?
It's all blacked out.
Do you really believe?
It's all redacted.
That's the other thing I don't get with these documents.
Like the Freedom of Information Act.
Right. Why doesn't anyone have to answer when that stuff is blacked out?
Accountability is supposedly
And
one of
why
our
not,
strong
if you
points.
can black that out, if you're trying to keep a secret like that, why not just put them through a paper shredder? Like if you've got the power to just black it out, why not?
Or you blow up a building.
Yeah. I always thought there was a lot of documents in the World Trade Centers that got destroyed.
Yes, there was.
Yeah, a lot.
A lot of records of supposedly $2.3 billion debt.
Yeah, I thought about a lot of that stuff. Like when that happened, I'm like, there's a lot of really important.
There's
papers in
people
there.
that dedicate their fucking whole channels to that.
And it's fascinating. I love it.
Because there's stuff coming out all the time. It's like, well, what about this? What the fuck is this over here?
Right. They're constantly finding more. Yeah. How about now these conservatives that talk about, here's another one, Brian. And I do get a little angry. It does frustrate me. George Bush used the Patriot Act against us. You think
Joe Biden helped write that.
Right. What led you to think that? Whatever gave you that idea? Again, Brian, go in a time machine and go back. Go listen to the local conservative stations back then with the Patriot Act. If anybody like myself tried warning, you got, hey man, this isn't time. Remember this, Brian? This is not a time to ask questions, Brian.
Everybody had
All right.
Middle Eastern rage.
Right. This is not the time to ask questions. You get behind your president. And this Patriot Act, how dare you? They're going to use that against terrorists. You think they're going to use it against you? Listen, man. If you don't like it, you get out. Again, when the conservative tells me, hey, man, this Patriot Act, I don't know about it. You don't know about it? If you don't like it, why don't you get out? Because I tried telling you, and you wanted to bloody up my nose every time I brought it up. So if you think you're going to get sympathy from me, maybe you need to toughen up, as you put it. The kids need to toughen up. Maybe you need to toughen up. Stop whining and crying. And if you don't like it, get out. That's all I have to say about the election. There is one more. Actually, I do have one last. This is what I'm going to leave you with. On the topic, there's something I find fascinating, and I researched the numbers today in preparation. As you know, there's controversy about the last election. Was there cheating? Were people making votes appear out of thin air? Let me tell you some numbers. I looked at the last I looked at all the presidential elections, the popular vote, all the way back to the late 80s, okay? So around the late 80s, early 90s, when you had the popular vote, you would have, everything was in like the 40, 30 millions. Oh, by the way, if you listen to past episodes, I usually say thousands. I have this, I don't know if it's a nervous tick or something. I accidentally will say like, he got 65,000 votes in the popular section when I meant to say 65 million. I catch myself doing that all the time. So if you listen to an old episode and I say someone got 65,000 votes, 6,500,000, I meant million. So I'm going to try and not do that anymore. Again, I catch myself doing that all the time. I don't know why I'm doing it, but back to my original point. Without giving you the exact numbers, you look at the popular votes, it would be somewhere in the vicinity of someone would have like 30 million, 35 million versus like 44 million, somewhere around there, right? And then as we get into like the early 2000s, population growth, you see like Obama one year got 69 million. Okay, so now you're getting into the 60s. Usually, regardless of who won or who lost, it's somewhere in like, 63 million votes versus 68 million. It's in the 60s. Okay, so you get that part. When Biden ran against Trump, without knowing I don't know the exact number, but I can tell you, Biden's popular vote, Trump's was in the 70 millions. 70. Biden was in the 80. So you're telling me that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, I would say two of the greatest political minds, when it comes to putting a campaign together and winning Brian, I'm talking about putting a campaign together. They know what they're doing. Would you disagree with that? I mean, they were very successful. No? You have to buy into that first to see what... Brian, would you agree that when it comes to putting a campaign together or being a personality that people can gravitate to, would you say they're better at it than Joe Biden? See, if you don't buy into this, then what I'm going to say doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't buy into it. You know that.
Okay, let me finish the whole thing and then see where I'm going with this, okay? And then
this is for the audience.
Yeah, this is for the audience. You got to just consider where I'm going with this, okay? You're telling me even Barack Obama could not get more than 69 million votes. Remember the campaign that went into him to get people out to vote, the minority votes, the magnitude of people, we're going to get our first black president. And yet, Donald Trump got in the 70s, it was like 70 million, something like that. Joe Biden got 81 million. So you're telling me for decades, we never broke the 60 million point. And then all of a sudden, Biden's in the 80? There is that big of a jump. I don't know what happened. I don't know if people cheated or what. But to think that he got 81 million votes after Hillary and Barack could not even reach 70 million.
Sound like an extremist.
That is very, very, it is. And that is very, no, it sounds like a mathematician. That is a statistical anomaly. That is very, very, very difficult to believe. Now,
but he pushed ice cream.
It is more, Ed Markey, the ice cream man, it is more believable to me. I believe.
He smelled all those girls.
I believe it is believable that Donald Trump got 70 million and that he might have broken that barrier.
This dude's a celebrity, of course.
Right.
It's America.
But do you believe that Biden got 81 million? I find that very high. 81 million? Oh my Lord.
If it were found out, what would it matter? Who would
It wouldn't matter.
Who would do something
and when people
about
say,
it?
yeah, you're saying the Democrats cheated, no,
They've been getting away with stuff like that every 4 years of my life.
I'm saying maybe they both cheated. I don't know.
Maybe it's all a
What I'm
sham.
saying is it reeks. It reeks. How do you suddenly get votes in the 80 millions after decades of no one could break that 60 million? Seems a bit suspicious to me. So that's that.
Why aren't we voting for someone we want?
Well, there's
someone kind and intelligent.
Because, Brian, the system itself, you know why you have to get, you know how you have to get a certain amount of signatures just to get on a ballot? Like, especially in like state elections.
Yeah.
You have to have a certain criteria, a certain level.
To have the public.
Yeah, certain level of interest. So that deters anyone like what you're talking about from ever getting in, because you have to have that celebrity status to begin with. Now, there is a reason, I think, for a legitimate reason. You can't just here I am talking about having 5, 6, 7, 8 choices, but you also can't have a ballot with 130 people.
Well, here's the thing I was going to say about that too.
Yeah.
That's what Congress was supposed to be, like just a collection of people from all the parties.
Right.
That you're talking about.
Right.
But everybody.
Right. This government was not even supposed to be a government. It was literally Congress. The point of them was to have there's so many of us and we're going about our lives. So we elect the Congress to go do the business of not to dictate us.
All the states.
Yeah, and put laws on us and tell us what to do, but just represent the daily business of the country. And it is just turned into this monster and this umbilical cord that not only can we not cut.
Half of them have dual citizenship.
Brian, we have convinced ourselves that we cannot live without this thing we call the government, and we must have it at all times.
We have a piece of paper that supposedly has some what to do's for that.
Yeah. We got a lot of papers.
We do now.
And you know what else? Like I said, too, there's papers where in plans for people like us or the communities, the population, if they get a little rowdy. And like I've said, I believe your law enforcement.
Talking about some Kathy Hochul stuff.
I'm talking about law enforcement will side with the government and will follow orders. And I've
Throwing
already,
you in a camp.
yeah, and I've already talked about this ad nauseum. I don't.
They're just
really,
doing their job.
They're just doing their job. We've gone over this a billion times, and we will go over it a billion more. But anyway, that's all I got. When we come back, Brian, there'll be a new president. That'll be wild. That'll be wild. There'll be a new. When we sit at this table, there will be a new president, whether it's Kamala or Donald. So we'll see how it goes. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about. A lot. But hey, everyone, thanks for tuning in. Form Voltron on Spotify, Rumble, and YouTube. And that's that. Get us on Instagram. We're on Instagram too. Thank you very much.